Everybody, we are TWIG 124. You've got myself, Joe Kim, aka Master Wu, Eric Chris, Eckhoff, and Adam Telfer. Today we're going to be covering 3 articles. First, from Star Wars to Marvel, licensed video games are becoming more ambitious. Here's why, from the Washington Post. Second, Applovin S1, our take from the Masters of the Meta. And third, Roblox, Dawn of the Metaverse from Meritech. What's going on, everybody? How are you guys doing?
We are on a new platform and having all kinds of technical difficulties. This is like 15 start, and we've been restarting our talk about Eric's new whip. Should we do it one more time? I feel like I know it better than him soon.
First of all, I have to admit, our fundamental problem is Mishka and Finland, right? Clearly, the technology is not up to snuff in Finland, right? They have amazing developers, amazing successful companies, but the technology in Finland is just not up to par, right?
I don't agree.
Or he's just a bad representative for Finland, which may be the case as well.
Just can't afford good internet. Like, look at it; it's just completely blurry. I can't.
I went to the store and I was like, give me the best router. They showed me the Huawei's latest one. I was like, you know what? I got nothing to hide. I got nothing to hide. Just
dude, spend the money. Spend your game refinery money and wire up your house, dude. Let's do this. All right, so I bought my second midlife crisis car. I have to admit, I already owned a Porsche before, and I don't know if anybody's gone through it, but basically it is fundamentally this. You spend all your money, your time, your effort, your life dealing with these freaking kids, and when do I get something, right? That's the midlife crisis car that you bought when you go out and buy a Porsche like an idiot, right? This time I went out like an idiot and bought an M3, which is a more practical Porsche, I suppose, because it is a 4-door, but the car is gangster. Love it.
You deserve it.
My family fucking hates it. They absolutely hate it. Every single one of them thinks it's fucking terrible. It's too loud. It's too fast. It's too rough. But I love it, and that's all that matters. So, second midlife crisis car. Thank you very much. All right. How about you guys? What's going on in Canada?
There's no midlife crises here, so that's good.
You have babies. You're not. You haven't suffered enough yet.
Got a nice Toyota.
You have to say, I know you're buying the fucking minivan. Is what you're doing. You're preparing. You're preparing for the hell, right? Wait until you get through the hell, then you're going to buy your Porsche. Well, and we'll see. All right, let's roll into updates. So first update for me is that we did have the Clubhouse last week on Friday. And I got to say, we got a lot of really great feedback. It seems like a lot of people really like that Clubhouse event. So definitely think we should do it again. It just coincidentally, we do have another Clubhouse event booked for this Friday at 12 p.m. PST, same time, same place. But this time it'll be with Joe Franks, who's the CEO of GameFam, and Harry Moninam from Play Ventures. So make sure to check that out. It's kind of a different thing, but same Clubhouse. And next week, Mishka, are we going to get you and Eric Suford on for Clubhouse?
Yeah,
that'd
be
awesome.
and so I go back to LinkedIn, and today some Josh Liu from Blizzard actually pinged me on a book club on Clubhouse, and I may or may not have said yes, and there was like a bunch of likes. So I know nothing about Clubhouse, but I think I'm gonna co-host a games book club. I don't know what that is on Clubhouse. But
you don't read.
Everything is on Josh Liu. So Josh arranges this, and if it goes south, it's his fault. If it's great, then you're welcome.
So like every month you just keep rereading Ready Player One and just keep rereading it. Keep rereading it.
The only video game book you've ever read.
The only book I've ever read. Actually, I haven't even read that one. So. I don't know. I don't know anything about Clubhouse. This is JK's realm. So,
wait, not even mine. I barely do Clubhouse personally, but yeah,
Joseph, who's the guy? Who's the guy that was on from? Oh Jesus, who's the other guy that was on from LA, the Jam City?
Jeremy Horn.
Oh yeah, Jeremy. I want to apologize to Jeremy. I called him out for pushing his own book, but that was a really fun Clubhouse. I actually really enjoyed it. I was driving my car in the.
Dude, I literally got so many messages from people. They really, really liked it. So, I mean,
well, we had a ton of people. We had a ton of people on too. I thought it was going to be like 10 people listening to us bullshit, but it was like, I think it was like 50, 70, somewhere around there, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know. Did you get a number?
I didn't get a number, but when I looked, there were quite a few people.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
Wait,
Anyway.
am I invited to these other ones, or am I now?
Yeah.
No. I mean, I don't. There's nothing formal. I don't even know. What this other clubhouse for this Friday is not. It's not even like my clubhouse. It's just another clubhouse. But yeah, let's figure it out.
The problem though is time zones, right? Like Helsinki, Toronto, West Coast. Like it feels like everything currently on Clubhouse is optimized around the West Coast. So all of these like great talks are happening, and I'm like, I'm in bed. Sorry, guys.
This clubhouse is happening at 10 p.m. on a Friday evening. Like, I'm not middle-aged, but I'm getting there. Yeah. And this is like a middle-aged zone. So,
anyways,
I don't know.
All right, second announcement. This is just a public service announcement. But if anyone has not checked out Brett Novak's new podcast, Creators of Work, really great content from Brett and his co-host Katie Kuffel. So I definitely think you guys should check it out. They've recently done a few podcasts with some folks from Zynga and really provides good insight into how different companies, game companies work and operate, and definitely think that you should check it out. I'll add a link in the show notes. Third update, Wall Street Journal is reporting that Xiaomi wins their court ruling halting U.S. investment ban. And I do know like some Chinese publishers who I had an opportunity to speak with were nervous about investing in U.S. companies based on the environment last year. But I do think that based upon what seems to be happening with Xiaomi, maybe that would open stuff up. Not saying that I would necessarily count on it, but the ruling in favor of Xiaomi would make moves like Chinese investment in the U.S. a bit more possible. Fourth update, Bant.com is reporting that LEGA reached record sales and profits in 2020. So operating profits jumped 19% to 2.67 billion, and LEGA reported that its growth was largely driven by sales in sets that blend physical bricks with digital Super Mario games. Last update from me is basically there was more detail on Krafton's 22.5 million investment into Nodwin Gaming, which is an Indian esports company. And so this article from the Esports Observer noted a few interesting points about the investment, which I wanted to cover. First is that there seemed to have been an emphasis from Nodwin's managing director and co-founder about accepting investment from a company that is aligned with India. So in particular, they're stating that, because Korea is aligned with India, and he was generally saying that the US is aligned with India, they could accept investment from companies that are from those countries. But other countries like China, they seem to be suggesting that they were a lot more nervous about accepting investment from. Second, it appears that the part of the Krafton investment isn't just a play for esports in India, but they also noted that Nodwin does have expansion plans into Africa, the Middle East, and South Asia. Third point was that the way that Nodwin thinks about building franchise leagues in new territories is based upon a 4-point system of 1 language to the game, 3 a region, and 4 a format. An example that they gave is Street Fighter in English for India, targeting 25 to 35-year-old affluent males that want to watch people playing games in a bar. Fourth point, the minimum target for Nodwin in terms of building out esports for them is mainly a simple heuristic of 1 million DAO. Fifth point, Nodwin pointed out that influencers are absolutely key to their growth, and they are going to be focused on building out their influencer and content creator ecosystem, and in particular, try to take some of the biggest PUBG mobile players in India who lost access to the game and shift them to other games. And finally, Nodwin's co-founder Akash Rathi talked about China's risk with respect to Valorant in India, and he stated, quote, "I won't mince words. The game's done well. It's run very well through publishers. Riot has come to us, and we've had a very frank conversation about it. Until India solves its problems with China, it's very risky because Riot is 99.8% owned by Tencent, so there's no way of getting away from that." End quote. Mishka, you've got updates?
But so hold on a minute. So this investment is part of their pledge of $100 million.
$100 million pledge. That's right.
Yeah, so again, this is not like fundamental. This is like they're trying to put this money to work in India so that they can get back into India's good graces, right?
That's
so
right.
it's like Yeah, okay. I just want to be clear on this. There's different reasons for this investment, not that this Nodwin Gaming is worth whatever they're paying for it necessarily. Anyway.
All right. To my updates. First of all, shout out to Eric and JK and Chris. The Game Biz episode you guys did was really good. It took me a while before going to listen to it. I can't listen to Eric for many hours a week, so I was kind of savoring it. And yesterday evening, I was walking the dog, and I'm like, "This is great!
How dare you?
This is great." He mellows you down so much, and you're like introspective during it. You're like, "Huh," and then you still use a blunt object and just smash it. So it was really good. It's a really good series. The chemistry between Chris and Eric is fantastic. So if you guys haven't listened to it, check it out. It's a whole different Eric, I do have to say. Then a couple of updates. So
he completes me. He completes me.
Yeah. Well, it's by different. I don't mean like one is bad, one is good. It's different. It's awesome. So second part, so from Sensor Tower, so they are calling all game publishers and developers. Deconstructor of Fun is partnering with them to conduct a first ever State of Mobile Gaming Industry survey, and this is an opportunity to participate in it and secure a free copy of their full report upon release. So this survey takes you less than a minute. Less than 5 minutes. Go to Sensor Tower, go to blog, take the survey, and we'll report on it in this podcast. Should be interesting. They're going to gather a lot of data and do their results. And now I feel pressured because in every update I have to bring Finland somehow. So I found actually a pretty interesting news. All right, in this one, so news from Finland. Metacore, not Manticore, Metacore. It's a Supercell portfolio company. They raised $17.6 million from Supercell back in September. And they are now fourth in the booming merge genre. They're currently neck on neck with Zynga's Merge Magic, with half of the installs that Merge Magic is taking in a month. So I want to give two shout outs. One is for Supercell, because we've been giving them a lot of shit about their M&A, but this one looks like a winner. And of course, I have to give a shout out to the growth lead for Metacore, my ex-colleague Tapio Tuomola, who left Rovio to join the team, and seems like that was a good decision. Now, the only question, which I don't know if it's a relevant question, is like, if Metacore would be a VC-funded company, they would be a pretty great acquisition target in the market. Again, I don't know how this works with Supercell now that they own the majority of it, and we have a booming merge game, like everybody's picking up merge games. But I'm sure they have some kind of system, and I know guys from Supercell and gals are listening to this. So if you want to come on the show and explain how this M&A model works and what's the upside for the founders, I'd be glad to hear, and I'm sure a lot of other people would be glad to hear about it too. So those are my updates.
All right. Do you own stock in this one? I mean, I have to ask now because every single one you have some angle. Do you own stock? Does your wife own stock? Does your brother? Your cousin?
No, I have no stock in this.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
I like Tapio a lot. He's their growth lead, and I haven't even played the game, to be honest. It's still downloaded. I'm not a fan of merge games. I don't know if you guys play them. I doubt it, but definitely we'll give it a go. It seems like it's doing really well. No spikes though, so they're not running events unlike Merge Magic. So interesting.
All right, I gotta look at this game now. Holy moly! Oh, but it's still really tiny.
Yeah, but look at the downloads compared to that to Merge Magic.
Cool.
So it's doing good.
Yep. All right. Update. News. I have no updates. News. Basically, the first news story is from Star Wars to Marvel. Licensed video games are becoming more ambitious, and here is why. I thought this was a reasonably good article. I think it kind of buried the lead to some degree, but we'll get into it. All right. So basically, he's starting to talk about these new announcements from Ubisoft and Massive that are building kind of a Division clone in the Star Wars universe. And then the Bethesda was signed up to do an Indiana Jones game. And basically saying that for many, many years, there was all smaller mid-tier studios were really kind of building these movie tie-in games, with little care for quality, which is somewhat true, but I think there's more to it, frankly. But anyway, but what they say is that they're seeing more games like Spider-Man from Sony, EA's Battlefront, Jedi Fallen Order, etc. for the Star Wars universe, and now we have Ubisoft with their Division game and Bethesda signing up for the Indiana Jones game. So it's a good sign for the future of licensed games, is kind of their point. And then he talks about the 1990s and the 2000s where licensed games were crap, which is totally true. Things like The Matrix, which actually sold very well, but that was a terrible game. Until we actually saw Batman Arkham from Rocksteady, which was an absolute amazing game. And so I think the real exception to this rule is what has been accomplished by Warner. And I'm not just saying that to be because I'm biased, but they actually have done an exceptional job. And then they go on and talk about how, on the flip side, we're actually seeing games in TV shows, which I think is just one exception to the rule. Now we're going to see Assassin's Creed coming out soon, but they're talking about the Witcher series based upon The Witcher from my favorite publisher, developer, CD Projekt. That was a real success, but I think that's the only real success that I can think of. But anyway, so basically, I think the whole point of the article is that we are seeing more licensed games and more bigger projects in the licensed game category coming out. And this is starting with all the Star Wars stuff from EA, but now we're seeing Ubisoft and Bethesda getting involved. And I think what's interesting here is because IP is on the mind for me, working with Warner. But I think this is a function of two things in my mind, really, is that there was a strategic shift amongst the licensors from doing their internal development to licensing, right? Particularly Disney, obviously, is the biggest example, and Lucas, right? So they've been trying to do their own development for decades with very, very little success. And the only real success there, again, is Warner with what they've accomplished over the years. And then I think there's a dynamic in this market as it matures, particularly with the console and PC, is that we are seeing IPs dominate certain genres. So Call of Duty is dominating shooter, Battlefield, etc. Action adventures, Assassins, and GTA. Sports is obviously dominated by sports, EA. So I think in some sense, publishers like Square and Ubisoft and even EA are looking for IPs to help them build competitive games in a relatively well-established genre-defining games. So, and again, I think for me, it's really exciting to see how these real developers are going to build games with these iconic IPs. And frankly, I'm glad that Disney and Marvel and Fox and MGM and every other movie, TV / studio are not making games anymore, right? So that they will ultimately make higher quality games, like the Star Wars games from EA as well as Spider-Man. And I think, and it's kind of an evolution of the industry in general, and trying to get to more of a mass market, appeal. Using these licenses to build up the audiences is also another part of this strategy. But again, there's always risks with using IPs because there's limitations set by the license holders and how you use the IP. Consumers' expectations are set based upon the license. And, I think Spider-Man is actually one of the better examples of a more flexible IP in which you're using different metaverses to build out different types of Spider-Mans, which, shows more flexibility with that IP, unlike something like Harry Potter, which is very, very strict in terms of how you control, how you use the characters and the narratives, etc. So I guess the other point of this, and this is getting a little boring, but the point is that with IDFA, we actually may see a lot more of this activity on mobile. So this is kind of what my prediction is that we don't see many licensed products. In the top 20, we barely see any, maybe 2 or 3, things like Marvel Contest of Champions, Marvel Strike Force, etc. So perhaps we'll actually see a little bit more activity out there to try to build out the broader audience to leverage licenses and take away some of the share from the IPs that have been created, like Clash of Clans, Angry Birds, etc. So anyway, it was just an interesting article about the moves of licenses. I think we probably will see a lot more activity going forward on the licensing side. as these industries mature. Thoughts?
Yeah, I have to agree. And there was just a recent news on FunPlus partnering up with their latest 4X game, State of Survival. They partnered with AMC to bring in The Walking Dead to it. So that will be interesting to see how well that works, given that State of Survival is a zombie game, but now they get even a bigger IP. And I don't remember how much State of Survival was making, but it was raking in hundreds of millions a year. And it's been really on the growth.
Yeah, that thing is,
so yeah, really interesting to see it. It's an update to their 4X engine.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even see that. So this is on top of the existing game, or is this a new game?
Yeah. So State of Survival has been growing throughout the whole last year, and they've made an update to their engine, but also compared to other 4X games, they added, well, some of the games had it, but they added a pretty significant RPG component to it, where you save a dog, and it's basically, RPG component to the game. And that it has been growing tremendously month after month the whole last year, and was one of the biggest growing, if not the biggest growing 4X game the whole last year. And now they have an IP on top of it. So if we can kind of, correlate how well an IP in a 4X game works, it depends. Terminator was horrible for Plarium, but Game of Thrones for Warner Brothers was fantastic. So I think this one seems like what kind of a better fit you have than an existing zombie game that is already making a ton of money, but now having actually a Walking Dead IP on top of it. No, I was just saying that what you get with an IP is that you're going to see the audience much more clear, so you can target better in a post-IDFA. That increases significantly your IPM as well as your App Store optimization by having that IP. So I think it's a win for FunPlus. Go ahead, Joe.
Oh yeah, all right. I guess it's happening on the 1st of April, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like kind of a limited. That's interesting. So maybe this is really smart to try to circumvent the IDFA issues. They're going to leverage the Walking Dead IP during this fucking Apple Ragnarok.
Yeah. The one thing to note is that I think what we'll probably also see is a lot more mispricings with respect to IP, because in a IDFA deprecation world, you are going to have much poor ability to attribute the impact of IP, and so to some degree you're going to have mispriced IPs. In other words, I think this is generally good for IP holders, but we should definitely expect that to happen in the future.
But do you think
people will overpay or
overask?
I think people are going to overpay.
Well, okay, Joe.
There's going to be overpayment.
Well, let me just say this. So with the whole lockdowns, the entertainment industry has really been suffering. So I think they need the avenues for games, and as well as there's a lot of streaming platforms that have their unique shows. And we've seen Netflix hiring people for their gaming side. I'm sure other streaming platforms are doing the same thing at some point. So I think there's going to be a surplus of supply that may lower the price for the IPs. Not, of course, not for the top ones, but
I think this is hitting pretty close to home for me. So I'm going to say I have no opinion here. I'm not involved here. This is all their opinions. Yeah.
All right. We can move on.
Yeah, we'll see. But I do think, but to your point about second, third tier IPs and being able to actually measure the impact of that to UA. It's going to be hard. So, good for them. get that money.
But would it be you just make a deal of like a certain amount of cut and a minimum guarantee? Is that the case? But it's kind of like it would be hard to measure like what was the effect of the IP, except with FunPlus, because they already had that game and it was already doing great. So they will actually see how an IP will affect it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the deal structure doesn't change, but I do think that the amount and rev share is going to be generally good for IP holders, but we'll see.
Can I not get fired today? Can we move on now?
Okay, all right.
Who's next?
Thanks, I appreciate it. Thanks.
Okay, let's talk about Applovin S1. So this is an article from Master the Meta. Really great newsletter. Everybody should subscribe to it. So anyway,
wait, hold on before you continue.
Yeah.
Wait, before you continue. Mm-hmm. Do you own stock in this company?
No.
Do you have any affiliation with this company?
With Master the Meta? No, but
No,
with certain individuals from there. But anyway,
they are they not sponsors of the podcast?
Mm-mm. No.
No? Oh, I thought they were. No. All right. So you have no affiliation with this company before we continue. I'm just asking.
No affiliation with Master the Meta at all. At all. They are part of the Slack channel.
Applovin.
Applovin. Well,
no, Applovin.
I wish. Anyways, so Applovin, no affiliation. Okay. Founded in 2011, Applovin's mission is to grow the mobile app ecosystem by enabling the success of mobile developers. In other words, they position themselves as clearly as not a gaming company. And what they do is they provide core technologies and software that drive both app growth and revenues for its business customers through 6 steps process. Anyway, so the 6-step process is this. AppGraph collects ad interaction data across all apps working with Applovin. Step 2, Axon uses the data on its ML algorithm to match app users to relevant ad content. Step 3, App Discovery curates that ad content by matching advertisers' demand with publisher supply. Step 4, Max powers those matches by running real-time competitive auctions for in-app ad slots. Step 5, Compass analyzes those auctions to deliver ROI insights through an analytics tool. And step 6, mobile developers are enabled by the above technologies and insights to not only drive more installs to their apps, but also continuously optimize the ad revenue generated per new install acquired, and therefore drive towards a positive ROI equation. Anyways, I think the beef of this is
I'm so tired. I'm so sleepy.
Beef of this, my brain just shut down. It just shut down. I don't know. I have to jumpstart it. Let me get some more coffee. Hold on a minute.
Related. Anyway,
I'll be right back. I'll be right back. All right, I'll be right back.
All right. So the interesting beef about this is that the MTM acknowledges there might be a conflict of interest in Applovin's flywheel, but I don't think they really addressed it. They complimented on the business model, and they sort of made a point that because the revenues are 50-50 between the business revenue, and business revenue is something that is generated from advertisers spending on software and apps, as well as consumers' revenue, which is generated through in-app purchases made by users on Applovin apps. And because that's sort of a 50-50, everything is fair and great. And the article goes deeper into giving Applovin all the credit, but in my opinion, misses, I think, 2 pretty important points. So number 1 is something that Eric Seufert has been talking about in MDM, and we did a podcast about this as well, is called Content Fortress. So in a way, Applovin is almost a perfect content fortress, because the Content Fortress is explained as a collection of first-party and potentially second-party content that is supported by owned ad tech infrastructure, such that reliance on external sources of new users or data is minimized. Now, we know that Applovin acquired Adjust, an attribution platform, some time ago, a couple of months ago, and it's clear that they're building they actually have built a self-sufficient advertising ecosystem to connect its first-party properties. So in order to have a successful content fortress, you have to have a very good portfolio management, which means that you have to be moving players from low monetizing entry points, apps, to better monetizing games. And we've seen that happen already in Applovin's portfolio, where they have bought People Fun, which is one of the top word game makers, as well as several puzzle companies like Firecraft Studio, that is actually not Firecraft Studio, it's Magic Tavern, Belka, and so forth, where they're moving the players from entry points to a better monetizing apps. We know that they have an operational ad tech because they fully own ad network, and we know that they have what Eric calls a command economy, which is a strong central management that makes calls for the company needs purely without much politics. And we've talked good things about Applovin's great leadership, and they are very focused on the business side versus competing whose division makes what. So the way I see it is Applovin has built a content fortress that generates first-party data that can legitimately be used for advertising, and thus has set powerful protection against ATT and built a foundation for further growth as studios will start to falter around it. studios that are not prepared for IDFA deprecation. And so that's one point, the content fortress of the business model. But the second point is Applovin has not always acted in a very transparent way. And in 2018, they started publishing their own game called Matchington Mansion from Firecraft Studio. And in the MTM article, they made a case that the move to internal development was no-brainer. But the fact is that we know that this move was a little bit of a shady one. There was no Firecraft Studio. It was a studio called Magic Tavern that is still there, based out of Beijing, that made this game. In fact, Firecraft Studio was placed in an address that was a coffee house in San Mateo. And the game was very much inspired by Homescapes, which is a Playrix game, and Playrix is Applovin's company, client company. And when we look at the App Store optimization and the creatives, I mean, I don't know who copied who. I think both did the same thing, but there was a pretty significant war that actually hurt Glue back in the day when Glue was saying they can't scale their games because of this madness that is happening between Playrix and Firecraft Studios or Applovin. So I think, they are purchasing companies that are known to drive great traffic. And I wouldn't be so quick to say that there's no conflict of interest. And this is something that you guys touched upon in the Game Biz episode, where Chris was saying that some companies are, initially wanted not to share data with Applovin. That went from an ad network to an actual competitor, but they just didn't have a choice. They gave them good traffic and they had to grow, and they just decided, you know what, let's just ride with them. Like, we can't do anything about it, and kind of, bow down to it. So I think this is definitely something to discuss. And I know you guys hate talking about ad networks, so that's why I have Eric Seufert. I'm going to actually talk about this with him, the S1 for Applovin, and how does their content fortress rank up in his opinion. So, but to close it up, I think Applovin is a gangster, both in a good and a bad way. I think they're just a powerful company. I think they have an excellent leadership, and they have the backing of one of the biggest private equities in the world. And if we're just not talking about game developers, we're just talking about companies. I think this is one of the top companies, if not the top companies on mobile in the next 3 to 5 years. I think they're going to be, there's a case to be made that they're going to be the biggest one. So what they're doing is great for business, but I understand that it's not kosher on all levels necessarily. So what are your opinions, other than you hate this topic?
Well, first thing is I doubt I'll be covering this company, but I've heard nothing but amazing things about the management team. Like, they are gangster, right? I don't think they will hit the type of valuations that we saw from Roblox and Epic and Unity, but the team is amazing, and I think they will likely be the team that figures out how to circumvent Apple's like hostile policy against the publishers, and this will create scrutiny from both Apple and potentially create some drama for the company. If they go public, again, I just want to reiterate this: when you go public, there's a lot more scrutiny on your business, right? From a legal perspective, from a shareholder perspective. So when you consider people gangster, management teams gangster, and doing what they did, I think, to their partner Playrix, that's considered a big risk to big investors, which make markets in these stocks, right? So that does create a little bit more risk for these companies that have gangster practices, I suppose. So that is also another longer term risk for a company like this, similar to Skills and other companies that have gone SPAC, that have not gone the traditional route. So anyway, we'll see. I don't know as much about this company as you guys do, so I'd love to hear what Seifert thinks.
Yeah, I find it interesting that at some point Applovin and Iron Source were kind of neck and neck in terms of in terms of size and as well as, but their approach differed significantly. And the way that Applovin went about of doing the vertical integration, kind of testing the waters in a very, very shady way. Like I remember we were at the GDC in 2018, and the guys were talking about the biggest game of the year, and they were making all this big case of why a Matchington Mansion is such a big game, like going through all the features and so forth and so forth. And in fact, there wasn't really much different to Homescapes. It was really on the marketing side where they won. So I don't know. The way they went about it is just as Eric said, it's a little bit gangster. And but I do have to kind of say that because game industry didn't do anything about it, like nobody pulled out from Applovin's network. People were kind of like, well, this is shady, but I guess we'll take it.
That's not true. People did.
They pulled out. Playrix too?
Yeah, so some people pulled out. Some did.
But did they go back?
Playrix wanted back in later, but
yeah, exactly. This is what I mean.
They weren't allowed back.
Yeah, so this is what I mean. Is I remember when Playrix pulled out, and they were kind of like, well, it is what it is, and they wanted it back in. So there was this kind of a thing going on, because the hypothesis would have been that if people would have found out, that's why Applovin was a little bit shady around this. The hypothesis was that if developers would have found out, they would have all pulled out of Applovin, and they would have been alone there. But that didn't happen, so they were kind of like, you know what? It is what it is.
Those discussions happened.
Those discussions, anyway, I know those discussions.
Look, we kind of beat this to death,
and that was weird.
Yeah. So if people want to know more about this, we did release a pod about this. Ad networks plus studio, vertical integration. I think that goes into more depth about it. But yeah, it is what it is. Maybe we should move on.
This week is a minefield. Wow. In terms of articles. Okay, so the last article of the day, let's go to Roblox. So this article called Roblox Dawn of the Metaverse. And I think if you haven't heard of Metaverse, you must be living under a rock, because it's the buzzword of the last few years, absolutely. And look, I have a personal big pet peeve with buzzwords in general. I think Metaverse and Flywheel are my current pet peeves.
Oh, dude! Wait, whoa! How'd you get triggered by Flywheel? I'm in the same boat. Did we talk about this?
Yeah, we did.
Oh my!
We did.
Okay, dude. Like, that is my new. I never even heard the expression, and it was used in a conference call, and I almost lost my fucking mind. Right? Dude, triggered. We'll have to go through this next time. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. We can bond over pet peeves over buzzwords. So, anyways, okay. Metaverse, the word everyone must use in their pitch deck in order to drive the highest possible valuations, right? Because literally everyone's building a metaverse, right? The big question, of course, is who's going to own it? What's it going to look like? And I think this is actually a great article to read, because I think it puts sense behind the craze and actually puts a much better definition behind the word. The way that I'll describe it, Metaverse is being seen as the next frontier for technology spaces. So like YouTube, like social media platforms, it is believed to be where the next tech king will be crowned, like YouTube or like Facebook or like Twitch were for previous frontiers. The signal, right, for a metaverse is Cyworld, Habbo Hotel, Second Life, IMVU, MMOs like World of Warcraft, Fortnite, and of course Roblox. Digital spaces where players have a personal avatar where they actively hang out, and in extreme cases end up investing more of their time and resources into it than normal life. So a metaverse, in summary, is a digital identity, a social hangout with activities, rich self-expression, and value associated with your actions, namely a game economy. That turns into a virtual hangout space. So if we can change metaverse into virtual hangout space, I'll be happier. So Meritek, the author, hopefully I said the name right, spoke about their journey with Roblox, with how they invested in them, how they tried to acquire them over early on, and then eventually was able to lead a round in 2015 after about 9 years of their growth, which is really when the early signals were that Roblox was going to take off. And even at that time, they only had about 53 million in bookings that year. But already they were on an accelerated curve, right? Everybody could see that hockey stick. and how they saw past that, poor retention at that time and the concerns about like a limited total addressable market for the game, right? Was that they really looked at it in the context of network effects, which is a synonym for flywheel, right? Where more games are created, which creates more users, which demand more and better games, which creates more links between players playing those games, right? So it becomes this network effect where better games breed better players, and that loop drives growth. That's great. And I think this article then articulates why they think Roblox is in the position where it will be the metaverse. And I think, number one, they have a network scale already, which makes sense, especially for the right demographics, but notably also Fortnite, I would argue. Number two, they're building towards this before it was cool. They have 20 years of infrastructure construction on the novelty of the service in UGC. And I think last, they have obvious feature set gaps currently, which could be quickly filled in order to shift towards a proper metaverse. So they've been adding higher and higher fidelity improvements, right, allowing them to grow in key demographics. And the numbers that spoken about in this article, age groups 13 and above are now their fastest growing rate, and as well 17 plus is their fastest growth rate in terms of audience size. They're starting to capture a wider and wider audience. Great. Concerts are being added in December, and obviously fidelity gaps are being closed. And as well, talked about things like video being added, like co-watching can be added easily. Great. My take, I think Roblox and Fortnite are both poised to take on the metaverse for Gen Z in the West. Absolutely. I don't think any other service is so focused on Gen Z, and I believe that it's that gen which will latch onto a service like this, not millennials, right? And I think their moats are just massive and growing. Roblox has UGC. Epic has a very, very strong development resources and likely can actually latch on to any strong gameplay that comes out. So anything cool comes out, let's say Among Us, right? These guys can both copy that gameplay novelty and bring it over to their metaverse. Exactly what we saw with the Spy within Fortnite. Any UGC platform, of course, will take 5 years plus to reach the scale that they're talking about now, right? That flywheel or network effect, right, is actually working against any new competitor. So I think really the only chance is if there's a Gen Z focused game that pops up in popularity, which seems to happen, once a year, Among Us, Valheim. But these lottery winners actually would have the resources like Epic or like Roblox to actually transfer that growth into a live service and then transfer from a live service to drive a metaverse. That's incredibly difficult, and not a lot of developers can do that, as well as win the lottery to get that initial growth. Not Among Us, not Valheim, and not Apex Legends, right? So I will caveat all this because it's Gen Z in the West. Because I think Gen Alpha and beyond, the dominant metaverse will likely change. Because I think I see this kind of like social networks, right? Even at that scale, each generation is going to go after and cling on to different features and different experiences, and will want a social space that feels like their own, not a previous generation's. Why Instagram is a thing, and why things like, Facebook was massive, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they can just stay Facebook, right? Gen Z hung out on Roblox and Minecraft, not World of Warcraft, and why TikTok, Snap are a thing. Even with these impenetrable decades-long services, there will always be new generations of kids looking for new services, new places to hang out. Eric, you got a take?
All right. Well, first of all, I'm going to call bullshit on the 17 plus as the fastest growing group within Roblox. I've heard from a couple sources now, and this makes total sense because my understanding was that once they turn 14, 15, they are out. They never come back, right? Because the content's not there for them, right?
So what I heard, keep in mind in terms of the metric, there could be some bias there, right? No, you could say the total volume of 17 plus, right? That growth has been growing. So even though, yes, in terms of retention, people are dropping off steeply from those age groups to 17, the total volume of 17 plus probably is growing. Like growth metric here is probably just a stat. I don't know if that's really...
No. And they can't lie on these things, so I'm not suggesting that they're lying, but I'm suggesting that the players, what I heard from a couple people was that players are putting in their profile that they're 17 plus in order to access certain features within Roblox, and less I think filtering of language or whatever, more freedom to use chat. I don't know exactly. And so that could be skewing the numbers in their favor, right? And so I think that's far more likely than obviously them trying to cook the numbers. But nonetheless, the anecdotal and the information that I had before they went public was that they lose all their players at age 16. I don't think the content's changed that dramatically in the last year or so. So that's the first thing I will say, which I think in some ways gives the opportunity to Epic or Manticore, whoever kind of builds this thing out, to attract that age group with better content and higher fidelity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, first of all, like Craig Sherman, I've never heard of him before, but he seems like a really smart dude. He made a shit ton of money because he was an angel investor in Roblox, right? And a board member. So again, article bias, right? This is what we have to deal with every freaking week with Mishka, So anyway, so I think like Craig seems like a really smart guy, but he's reporting on his own book. Let's see. I think we can all agree that Roblox is a bit primitive, in terms of graphical fidelity and even gameplay. But they have this absolutely massive moat with this audience, and they're going to be around for forever and ever and ever. And I think they've also kind of like set the stage or set the expectations for what the metaverse will be, right? It's not, it's not Ready Player One. It's not The Matrix, right? It is a collection of games that are built by the community that build social experiences, all the things that he said in the article, which I think was really good. So anyway, they were the first mover. I think this does create an opportunity for Epic on the higher end. And then if you look at what Facebook's doing, like there's so much press around. I'm actually talking to, oh my God, I always blank on his name, but I'm talking to the head of development for Facebook this week. But, they're making huge investments, and they are trying to build that metaverse with AR and VR, right? Like we imagine it to be, I think, from like sci-fi stuff. And so in the next 10 to 20 years, when we're old men, right? Or I'm already old, so I guess older, we could be watching exactly what we want, right? Jacking into the Matrix, with a 3D, VR device. Because, dude, Facebook and those guys are just investing, right? It's like reckless abandon over there to make this thing happen, because I think it's just more of a strategy for them to own the platform as well as the social fabric, I suppose. So anyway, I think we're just at the beginning of this stuff. I think Roblox is an early mover. I think they are an amazing company, but I think there's a lot of opportunities for others to make a play here. But it is not going to be these small little rinky-dink Among Us, Valheim, or even Apex Legends.
But you feel like there would be a new company that would take on and be able to lop off Roblox and Fortnite?
No. I think that's
what part of the metaverse could a new entrant actually help out with? If they don't own the metaverse. If you're saying Roblox and Fortnite own the metaverse, what is a new company then doing?
No, I don't suggest. No, I don't know. I'm not saying that. I'm saying Facebook could own their own metaverse in a VR AR world, right? That's possible.
Yeah, I guess. But then, like you saw the video of them live streaming a VR world around the world, right? Like, I feel like that gets into Microsoft product territory where you're getting into this like super corporate metaverse thing, right? When I don't think they have. I would almost rather say Fortnite builds the infrastructure around building VR worlds, and then white boxes it, gives it to a crazy indie studio, right? And that studio builds kind of the building blocks of that town, and then other people build a UGC metaverse around it, right? So Facebook still gets the benefits of that, but at the end of the day, I just don't see a generation clinging on to Facebook as the platform. Does that make sense?
I think the problem, guys, is that nobody knows what they're talking about when it comes to metaverse, right? There's like Ready Player One, like there's where we are today, there's Ready Player One, and then anything between like live events in Fortnite or Roblox to the Ready Player One vision. Everyone's got all sorts of crazy ideas, everything in between, and everyone's calling that whole mess of stuff a metaverse, and everyone's got a different idea of what it is. The problem is that between that gap between today and Ready Player One, all that stuff in between is, I think, hard to monetize. And I just think that that's the big issue with Roblox right now, is that part of their valuation is based upon this fuzzy smoke and mirrors. What is it going to be? Nobody knows. And honestly, like the closest thing to the metaverse right now is the thing that no one is talking about. And it's basically GTA 5 no pixel. That's the closest thing to the metaverse. But
GTA 5 no pixel. What do you mean by that? Do you mean GTA Online?
Well, there's basically like these private mod servers. Like this is where just do a search on that on YouTube. You'll see what I'm talking about. But
okay,
yeah. I mean,
because I know
honestly,
there's environments in GTA Online for role playing, which I'm assuming is what you're talking.
Yeah, it's an RP server. Yeah. Anyway,
so but the frictions towards doing that right now are quite high. So there would be
Well,
some
I guess my point is, like, if you want to call like live events in Roblox or Fortnite the metaverse, sure, great. But
I think it's one. Yeah, I think it's one piece, right? Like if Fortnite offered a mode which was strictly for role playing, right, and killed a lot of that friction of going into GTA 5 and building out those types of servers, right? It could capture a lot of that audience, right?
Yeah.
Reduce that friction, give people all the tools they need, because obviously GTA wasn't built for that. It wasn't built for role playing.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Take-Two cares about that engagement. Versus Fortnite, now all of a sudden they have a vested interest in it because now people are showcasing their cosmetics, showcasing their progression using Fortnite. So I think Epic's actually pretty well poised. Same thing with Roblox.
Yeah, I guess my point is more that this in-between phase that we're talking about, everyone has all sorts of crazy ideas.
Yeah,
there's no fixed vision, and it's going to be hard to monetize. So for me personally, I'm short metaverse. I'm actually more bullish on even cloud gaming or
NFTs.
Or blockchain. Yeah. I'm
not cloud gaming. Don't say it.
Cloud gaming is more practical, realistic, and shorter term than metaverse, in my opinion.
Oh, that's idiotic, dude. Come on,
it is not.
Give me a break.
Don't tell me who's gonna.
I believe in
monetize. Who's going to monetize the metaverse? At what point?
JK, I'm with you on this. This is like, I believe in cloud gaming as well, more than in metaverse. This is insanity. Like, I talk a little bit about
go back to Rovio and run Hatch. There you go. Go back to Rovio and run Hatch.
Yeah, seriously. Oh yeah, I bet there's some assets there you could pick up from Rovio with Hatch, dude. Moron. No way, dude.
Cloud gaming could be 5 to 10 years. Metaverse, we're talking like, dude,
Roblox is minting money right now. They're like a $50 billion valuation.
Yeah, they're minting money, but not on the metaverse, dude. The metaverse right now is smoke and mirrors. It's like we can do any of this crap out here.
But again,
what is it? I don't know. It's this crap out here.
It depends on your definition of metaverse. If the metaverse is just a digital hangout, if the definition is a digital hangout,
if you can call Metaverse whatever the fuck you want, then sure, it'll work.
Right now.
Some random shit will work. Yeah.
Joseph, come on. You sounded like me, dude. What's wrong with you? Anyway,
this
think this article.
This got a lot.
Yeah, let's end it. This article was actually really good. I thought it described it very well. And we are at the early stages of the metaverse. I will agree with you on that. But there is success out there with user-generated content, 3D avatars of representations of yourself, going out there and being social. Like, I think those are the big things about the metaverse that are being executed on now. And we've seen it in World of Warcraft. We see it in GTA. We see it all these pieces of what I think will be the metaverse going forward. And this is just another execution of that. So I think
sure,
we'll continue
if you
to see
redefine the metaverse as an MMO or UGC, sure, yeah, we've got it.
I do. Yeah, I do.
MMO is a metaverse.
It's
an original metaverse.
Any digital hangout space, which would include World of Warcraft, which would include Roblox, which would include Second Life, all those games.
Fucking EverQuest, dude. You know how many hours I spent on EverQuest? That's not a metaverse. I don't know what is. Anyway,
okay, then it's already here.
Even with
the metaverse
gaming,
is here.
Right? The beginning will be Stadia. The beginning will be PUBG Mobile on cloud, right? And then eventually we'll get to a point where we'll be successful. But I would just say the metaverse has already had stronger signals.
All right, moving on.
We got to get Craig Sherman on a podcast and talk about what the actual metaverse is and cut through the bullshit, right?
Can we just do like a measurement of like all the buzzwords and which ones were actually useful? Let's just do like a survey. Let's add that to that survey. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well,
all right, guys.
I think
have
that's
a good
it.
week. Stay out of trouble.
I don't know about this podcast, guys. I'm gonna call this podcast a wash.
Yeah.
But anyway, all right.
Wasn't...
All right, between Applovin and the Metaverse, we got off tangent. Anyway, all right.
Dude,
Till next week, everybody.
All right, bye, guys.